Are you in the market for shutters? Do you know the answers to all these questions? Don't be overwhelmed. Get educated. Remember, information plus explanation equals a higher level of satisfaction in the end result. That is why it's imperative that you find a dealer that you can trust that has the knowledge, the experience, and the ability to guide you through the entire process. To make learning all this easier, I've developed what I call the DCI approach to understanding shutters. Simply stated, DCI is an acronym for design, construction, and installation. The better you understand these three areas will bring you closer to our goal of helping you have an extremely satisfying buying experience. So let's begin. First, let's talk about design, how the shutter looks and functions. This is a shutter. This is a stile. This is a rail. That's the top rail. This is the bottom rail. This is known as a tilt rod. Some people just call it the stick. This is a traditional form of linkage. On the shutter we have louvers, sometimes known as slats. Another form of linkage is known as the clear view or the hidden tilt. Now this one's a little different. It allows us to take the stick off the front and to go with a linkage that is hidden and out of sight to a large degree. In other words, from the front, you no longer see the stick in the front, so you open up your view, your visibility through the shutter so you can take in the view that you have behind the window outside. But the hidden tilt operates a little differently. You can take one louver, move it, and the whole louvers in that section will move. But the way it operates is the linkage has been removed from the front, and now it's just a linkage here in the back. And so you don't operate it by this linkage. It's just what connects all the louvers. You simply grab a louver in the front, and the linkage will cause everything else to follow suit. What we want to also learn to do is to discover what size louver do you need. I mean, louvers started out back in the beginning days of 1.25 inches. These things were small, but when I started building shutters, this is all that we made. And we had a special machine, I called him Iron Jaw for a good reason, and it would cut this louver and put a tenon on the end of it that allowed it to stick into the stile, which is here, and the tenon's on the end of the louver. Well, we marched up from 1.25 inches. We thought things were really going big. We went to 1 7/8 inches. Now, these two louvers you hardly even see in the marketplace, but just last week, I needed to sell a job with this one because it's the only louver size that worked with the clearance that we had in the window, so that we didn't have to build out a lot of special custom trim. So you have 1.25 inches, you can go 1 7/8 inches, but mostly today we see more of the 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and even higher up into 5.25 if need be. So we've got options on louver size. We want to find out what louver it's going to take to work for you. Some folks like the 4.5. They say they really want that, but maybe your ceilings aren't high enough. Maybe the windows are short, and if you go with that 4.5 louver, the geometry of the window looks a little strange, and maybe 3.5 may be more appropriate. But also what we want to consider is the stile type. Do you need a narrow stile? Like in a side light where the windows are real narrow, we make the stiles here smaller so we can make the rail as wide as possible so that we can give you the maximum view in width out that side light. So those are some options that we have. Also in stile type, we have this one in this particular view is what's known as a smooth stile. You just see a very rectangular shaped stile here. Well, what we also have as more of a traditional look is a beaded stile. This is the bead of the shutter. It's a little decorative detail that goes on the inside of the stile next to the louvers. This is pretty much the industry standard of how shutters look. And so this is why you can sometimes buy one brand of shutters and put them closer to another one, and they're going to look very similar. So that's just something to need to be aware of. You got options on the type of style that you may need in your windows. Also, another feature that we need you to be aware of is what's known as divider rails. Now, divider rails are just simply another rail in your panel. This whole thing here is called a panel. You've got the top rail, you've got a bottom rail, and you can also replace a louver with another rail, making it a divider rail. A lot of times these will line up with the lock rail of your window and help conceal that ugly part of the window. Or we can do something similar to a divider rail, and that's called a split tilt. Now, the divider rail is a solid piece of wood that's just like the bottom or top rail. It's fixed in place, it does not move, but then allows you to have an upper section of louvers that are adjustable and a lower section of louvers that are adjustable. And a lot of folks like that feature. Close the bottom section, maintain better privacy, and also what it allows you to do is to open the top and let light in and not have to be either one way or the other. With a standard tilt rod linkage without a divider rail, all your louvers in the panel, whether it's 6 foot, 7 foot tall, can be operated with one stick, and all the louvers move at one time. Some folks prefer that particular look, and so it's still available. But there's another feature, whether you use the tilt rod linkage in the front or the invisible tilt features. It is the thing that we call split tilt, which with a stick in the front is just a matter of cutting a section of the tilt rod and allowing this lower tilt rod to move independent of the upper section without the need for a divider rail. So that's another option to consider. When we're talking about louver linkages, one thing I want to mention is the aspect of, we talked about this traditional tilt rod linkage with the stick. We talked about the clear view or the hidden linkage, which is with the linkage on the back of the panel that you can see. But there's another option that's available, and only one company has it, and that's known as invisible tilt. Now, invisible tilt is unique because no stick in the front, and when you look on the back, there's no linkage on the back. So when you look through the panel, you don't see any linkage whatsoever. With the hidden tilt, you can still see the linkage from the inside of the room. Some folks, it's a deal killer. They have to absolutely have this invisible tilt. But the other options with the hidden tilt are generally a little less expensive. So depending on what feature you want and how you want your shutter to operate will affect what type of linkage system that we're actually going to use. Another thing that we need to talk about is number of panels wide. Do you want one wide panel for your window, or do you want to do it in 2 panels that are hinged on the side? You have options. There's more options to even do bifold, which means taking 2 panels and they fold to the same side of the window. Be more like kind of a configuration like this. It folds this way, covers the window, opens up and folds off to the side of the window. Another thing that you can do is to have things added to your windows, especially if they're real wide. Maybe you have a triple window, and that is T-post, where we divide the window into natural breaking points like the opening is. Maybe it's 3 separate windows, and so we have a 2 T-post that lines up with the original break points, and so it's a much more structural way to put shutters in that opening. Another option that we have has to do with double hung effect. This is something that used to be used a whole lot when we were building the 1 1/4 slat. We don't see it as much today, but it is still available, and periodically we do use it. And that's where you have 2 separate shutters, one on top of the other. And it kind of goes into a configuration like this. And what it does, it allows you to open one while you leave the other panel closed. Some people prefer that look. Again, it's called double hung, and we can tell you and show you how that feature would work. Other things that we need to discuss are frame choices. This is a big issue in a lot of homes as to how do you want the frames to look. Not so much the frame of what we call, this is a frame of the panel. We're talking about the frame that goes around the panel and attaches it to the wall of the window. This particular piece is known as a Z frame for obvious reasons, for it being shaped like a Z. There's other frames that are similar to this that are called L frames that can be recessed, that are just the shape of an L that goes into the window and recesses into the window. Another frame choice is what's known as an outside mount. These, if you look, are just flat and smooth. They look better from the outside, and they also allow us to build the shutters so that when you have windows that tilt, we have to use an outside mount so that we can get that tilt feature of the window to still function properly, so you can tilt the window, clean the glass, have access to your screens. So those are some features that we want to make you aware of, and there's a lot of choices of frames to look at, even in the Z frame line. There's smaller ones, bigger ones, smooth ones. There's just a lot of new shapes that are coming out into the marketplace. Next, we want to talk about are the specific things such as special shapes and designs. A lot of windows today have arches at the top. Some of them are just an eyebrow arch. That means just a partial arch at the top. Another form of a special shape is the full half circle arch. And these can be done several different ways. A lot of people have seen in the past the sunburst louver, where it's just the wagon wheel spoke looking thing where you have the louvers tapered and you can turn the louvers individually. What seems to be more popular today, though, is the horizontal louvers, where the louvers go horizontal all the way up into the top of the window and still function and move. So these are things that need to be taken into account, and especially when you get into the half circle arches, there's different things of whether you want a continuous rail around the top of your arch or you want the standard type rail that's even bigger and thicker. And so these are things that we can show you, and you can pick the design that looks the best for you. Other things that we need to let you know about are things such as door cutouts. A lot of doors today have the lever handle on them that stick into the glass section of the door. Well, with these, we have to do special cutouts that allow the handle to stay in position. One option around this problem is to just change the handle to a knob. For $30 or less, you can go to the Home Improvement Center and get a special smart key lock, which allows you to change that lock to be the same as your regular house key. And so you don't have to have extra keys for that feature, and it'll save you a lot of money. Usually to do the door cutout is going to cost $100 to $150 more, and some people really like the look of it. So that's an option that we can help you think about and choose which is going to be best for you. Another thing that's an option in the design of the shutter is windows that are multiple windows, but they're real close to each other. And by the time you put an outside mount frame so you can tilt your windows, the pieces of frame are touching each other. And so instead of having these two pieces of frame competing for that same space, what we do is make a wider T-post up to 7 inches wide, so that we can now make this look more like one large window and not have all these frames coming real close. And so it's an easy approach to a problem. It gives it a better look. Some other special things that come up to play are the kitchen sink windows that have the big gooseneck water faucet on there. Sometimes there's a window just right there behind the gooseneck, and it won't let the shutter open. And so we have to decide, do we need to make that opening in 2 panels? Do we want to put it up with friction catches? Do we still want to use hinges? There's some options there that we can design it to work and function better. Another feature that we get around, especially the kitchen sink, is the tile splash goes up into the window, and you have sheetrock up above it, and then you got the tile that makes the window narrower, and we have to take into account certain ways to build the frame, maybe put in some filler strips to pull it out so that we can cover those tile areas and make them look really nice. Also, there's a lot of other things that we could discuss. There's even different types of specialty products that we offer in our Legacy line. This involves special finishes, distress finishes, knotty pine, all kind of special glazed and faux finishes. There's all kinds of ways to really enhance the look of your shutters that you put in your home. And the thing is, not one company offers all of these particular options. Only one company offers the invisible tilt. Only certain companies offer a smooth urban block louver, which is flat, that closes. It's more of a contemporary look. So every company has its special features and options, and it's our responsibility to come in and help you, the homeowner, determine what features are important to you in your home for the design that you want to have. What functionality do you need? Do you really need your windows to tilt, or is that something that can be done differently? If we don't have to use the outside mounts, we can use Z-frames. Companies have special pricing for those. They can help reduce the cost of your windows some 15-20% just because of what frame choices that you are able to use. So that kind of gives you an overview of some of these options. Hopefully you've got a better understanding of all the terminology, and give us a call. We'll be glad to come out, go over all this with you so you can be assured of having the best product with the right features at the right price that you need to pay. Give us a call. You'll be glad you did.